get? What it expects, of course. If the mind up here expects positive, what will it get? Positive, of course. If you want to make $1 million, you must believe that you can make $1 million. Unless you win a lottery, you must believe that you deserve good, and then be willing to accept it. Your mind is co-creating your reality, if not in a quantum model, which I happen to subscribe to, and the literature is so robust. I think your Newtonian physics will be, and then be willing to accept it. Your mind is co-creating on in the next decade, because we will integrate the quantum and 0 point within current views of physics. Whether in that sense or not, in just the sense of how we already see the mind controls our expectation, our behavior, and our body. We create the overall quality of our own life. What do we do to empower ourselves? How do we get on this personal empowerment journey? If we take everything that we've learned today and we assemble these individual puzzle pieces, ranging from our defense mechanisms, our maladaptive behaviors, our chicken yard learnings, our subconscious potential, the savantry that we apparently are capable in the brain, if we take all these parts and we put them together, how will we empower ourselves? Well, the very first thing we're going to do is change how we talk to ourselves. I don't care how you do that. A lot of the research that I've carried out has been in my own lab. But there's a very fair question that I'm aware of. If you ask me about my research, and I've done the research alone, you have a right to ask about its credibility. Because doesn't he, after all, sell his stuff? I'm really very aware of that. We farm the research out. We have what we call doc squads. Doctoral candidates, they don't know what to do their dissertation on. They go to their chair. He turns them to me. We work out a protocol. I send it back up to his chair. Sometimes there's funding involved. And then the university and the student carry out the study. It's totally double-blind. It's divorced from me. That's how you run clean, non-contaminated research and at the same time sell a product. If I'm going to empower myself, the very first thing I'm going to tell you is you have to change your stream of consciousness. However you do that today. Do it first by forgiving and letting go of all blame. You've got to do that. Do it second by taking responsibility for everything in your life. Everything. You meet a situation and perhaps you had nothing to do with the situation. The guy's wagging his finger saying, you hid behind my car so I'd run into you. When you meet that situation, take responsibility to change it into a positive outcome. If not for that person, at least for yourself. If the flower pot falls on your head, try to think out of the box. What is the best thing I can do in this situation, taking responsibility for it, to have a positive outcome? Get connected to others. One of my favorite books right this minute is by Dr. Wayne Dyer. I cannot recommend this book too much. Intention. It's not my intention to make $1 million. It's not my intention to become the best in my field. That's not what he means by intention. By intention, what Dyer refers to is purpose. Purpose. What's your purpose? What are you here for? What's life about? Is it about more? Is it about money? What's your purpose? You know, whenever I talk, like most speakers, you ultimately get to a point where people say, well, how do I know my purpose? How do I find my purpose? You know, I would imagine that it'd be hard for many of you, to give me your purpose. 1, 2 words, or 1 sentence. What's your purpose? I mean, are you an accident? What breathes life into you? You know, we've run studies on near-death experiences, so-called afterlife, communications, the clairvoyance that talk to the dead. Is that really possible? Tightly controlled studies. The studies all suggest there is more to you than the pure Darwinian animal that evolved from a single-cell mechanism that will end when you end. If you're a spiritually connected person, you say, so what? I knew that. But if you're not a spiritually connected person, and a lot of academics aren't, that's nonsense. But the data shows clearly it's not nonsense. However, let's go back to James. Let's just be pragmatist. How am I going to get connected? I have to have a purpose to get connected. What's the purpose? I once did a sabbatical. Write a book, Thinking Without Thinking. I went to Big Bear, California, which is a resort destination, a beautiful lake up there, and I spent 3 years, 2.5 years. While I was there, people knew who I was, started asking me if I wouldn't speak here or speak there, or become involved in this or become involved in that, and I did. I was grateful to do it. I was flattered. And one day I was leading a small group, and we were talking about purpose. And I told them a story. True story. I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, leaving my office one day, and I turned down Russell. It was a motorcycle, a moped, not even a full motorcycle, one of those little things. On the side of the road, car had hit it, the man off on the ground, and I'd seen that moped many, many times on my way to the office. And the man that rode it was an older man, 85, and he was always sitting out in front of this little trailer, cheap old run-down trailer, always sitting out when I passed him in the morning. Looked like he was reading and just sitting there by the trailer with his moped parked alongside. And I noticed him several times. So when I came around the corner and I saw this, to me I could see this person. The person was on the ground, there was some blood, the bike was smashed, the car is there are people, they're calling law enforcement, obviously, and nobody is doing anything about this man. Now, I'm very aware that you can get sued if you try and help somebody, and that somebody then later says, well, you know, when he moved me or when he lifted me, this happened or that happened. But you know, there's no way I could just drive by. I had to stop my car. I had to go to this man, if for nothing else, and to talk to him. Everybody else was standing around waiting for law enforcement. Now, I told this story to this small group in California. I said, Mike, you shouldn't have done that. You just shouldn't have done that. You know what can happen to you when you do those kinds of... No, you know, you have to go by it. The way things are today, you can't get involved in those kinds of things. That's not your business. Every single one of them. And I was appalled. Absolutely appalled. I don't know what your legal system is here today. I hope to goodness you would not pass somebody who was just injured in a vehicle accident and wait for law enforcement to get there, at least to give them some hope. But I can't live here. I can't live here. These people and I just simply don't agree on that. You know, the point I was trying to make was this. This little old man looked at me, eye to eye, said, thank you. Thank you. I wasn't hurt that badly, as it turned out. And you know, I'd pass him days later. He's still sitting there, and I'd wave, and he'd wave back. And you know what? In here, I felt really good. I still feel really good. I want you all to feel really good. How do you get that quintessential experience? How do you get it? Gerald Jampolsky in these attitudinal centers has shown us patience in incontractable pain. When they go to the aid of another patient, the pain disappears. What's your purpose? I'm going to tell you what your purpose is. It's to have that quintessential feeling. It's to experience awe. Now, if for no other reason, that every time I revivify a story that has quintessential feeling in it, my body is bathed with these wonderful opiates. All the cells say, oh, goody, let's go to work and grow some more. My timeline is extended. I'm going to live longer. I'm going to have more fun. I'm going to meet more people. I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm not going to live in fear. If for no other reason than that practical reason. So what is my purpose? What is your purpose? Your purpose is to help others. Pure and simple. If you're a carpenter and you're building something for someone, you do your very best at doing it for them. Not for the money, but for them. Is this how you like it, ma'am? Whatever you do, do it for others. I'm not here for me today. I hope I'm here for you. And I hope that what we convey back and forth today, you leave not with something you say, that just doesn't fit my personality. I'm a get-even guy after all, John Wayne. I hope you leave and you do say, I'm gonna at least try this. Just try it. That's all. Just try it a little. In mathematics and physics, there is something known as chaos theory. Carl Preggione won the Nobel Prize for the theory of dissipative structures, built on chaos theory. That theory essentially says that even though you see a structure dissipating, going through entropy, it's moving to a higher order. That theory tells us that a tiny perturbation of a butterfly in Malaysia can affect a tornado in Ohio, USA. I hope that at least out of this, I have perturbed you. That there is some perturbation. That you do use some of what we've talked about. But I'm going to tell you most assuredly, if you decide, okay, I'll just try this, I want you to keep a diary. And every night when you go to bed, I did a good deed today. I'm going to digress a bit and tell you about a client I once had. Client was a clinical depressive. Client self-mutilated, had suicidal tendencies, and attempted a couple of times. Now, not real attempts, because the client was very capable of killing herself. Attempts that got her a lot of attention, and they were attempts. Self-mutilation since she was a child. Been in therapy for years. She's a grown woman now, on all kinds of medication. I'm looking at a jacket, pre-processing papers, and I see this woman's first therapist is Milton Erickson. Now, any of you that have studied psychology or hypnosis know who Milton Erickson is. I mean, hello, sir. If he couldn't help her, what am I going to do? What is she doing here? This man is an icon to me. Well, take everything you've known, Eldon, and just throw it out. You're not going to do anything that's been done. And between him and this whole list of therapists, this woman's had everything come at her. You can count on it. So what are you going to do? I honestly was there. What am I going to do? Well, I could tell her where the door is. I'm sorry, my list is too full. That would keep my pride intact. But that isn't what you do if you're a therapist. It isn't what you do if you're a carpenter. It isn't what you do if you're a secretary. It isn't what you do if you're a political leader. Remember your purpose, service. So the question is, how can I be of service? The woman would become hysterical in the first couple of 3 minutes that you try to carry any conversation with her. And she would sob and sob and sob. And you could do nothing with the sobbing. So I had a mirror, been given to me by a friend, and I used to use it to demonstrate how the two halves of your faces are different. He was a cosmetic surgeon, and it would sit up here, and you could see this half, and then you could see this half, and holy cow, you're right, this eye doesn't open as much as this eye. Why, my ears aren't even. Things that you never see unless you see them in halves and then put the halves together, but we're all made that way. And I thought, I wonder if this woman saw herself crying, if that would stop her, at least long enough for me to be able to communicate with her, because what good is an hour if it's just crying? I'm going to leave her last name out. Marie, look at that mirror while you're crying. When you're through, I'll come back. I left the room. Pretty quick, she wasn't crying. Come back in, I sit down. Look at that mirror, I'll be back. Didn't take long before she quit crying. The crying was what? Well, it may have been a way to delay the therapy. It may have been a way to get attention. I don't know. What I do know is I could do nothing as long as she cried, and I had to come up with some way. Now, what am I going to do now? She's not crying. Maybe I was better off letting her cry. I could sit there. The hour's over. Thanks. See you next week, same time. The only thing I could think of, I've got to stop this woman's self-indulgence on how pitiful, how poorly, how miserable she is, life is, the world is. She's got to have hope. How am I going to give her hope? I'm going to put her in service. That's what I'm going to do. I gave her a diary. Marie, this week, every single day of this week, you are to perform one good deed. Good deed? What's that got to do with my therapy? You want to be here, you're going to do, as you agreed, what I asked you to do. You're going to perform one good deed. And you're going to write it in this book. And when you get in bed at night and you fill that out, I want you to think about the deed you did and how it made you feel. And I don't care what the good deed is. You're standing in line, the person in front of you is short a quarter, give them the quarter. You help somebody across the road. You help somebody in your office that you don't even like, but you're going to help them? Hey, that's even better. But you do a good deed every single day. And you keep it in the diary, and you bring me the diary next week, and we're going to talk about that diary. And that's what he did. And she did it week one. And some of these good deeds, they were, is that a good deed, Marie? Really? Okay. How did it make you feel? But you see, now we were no longer talking about how terrible the world was. We were talking about what she was doing for other people. We turned the focus from life sucks and then you die to what I'm doing to help others. Week 2, you had to do 2 good turns every day. And some of these miserable good turns, let's improve them, you know. It's easy to do a good deed. You're holding a door for somebody. You're saying thank you. Las Vegas, Nevada, everything is fast. When you're a criminalist, that's a wonderful place to have a practice. You decide to get married and have children. It's not a great place to raise kids, so you kind of move. That's how I got to Washington. But Las Vegas, Nevada, everything moves so fast that you get people that are just in ruts, and they're just nasty. And I had a post office that I went to every day. And these were government workers, so they're not threatened. You know, they got better than tenor as a professor. And there were 3 sour-pussed guys there. They were so negative. This needs string on it. Take it back. This is the wrong paper. Get it out of here. I mean, they were just nasty. Rude, discourteous, and nasty. And I made it a point. I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to change this. I'm going to take responsibility for this. When I go into the post office, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to beam, you know, whatever that means. Some kind of, isn't life wonderful energy to these people? And when I get up there to them, I'm going to say, hi, how are you today? Gosh, I'm going to be friendly and charming. And you know, when I first started doing that, hey, it was hard. Hi, how are you today? What do you want? You know, hey, you're looking good today. What, didn't I look good yesterday? It was hard. But I'm going to tell you, and I swear to you this is true, 30 days after I walked into that post office, I could walk in there. Hi, Doc, come right on over here. I'll help you. They were warm and friendly with me, and it was just mirroring back to me what I'd given them. Marie started to improve the good deeds she was doing. She started to try to be an active influence. That is, as I did in the post office. Meet that nasty look with a smile. Meet that impatient clerk with, gee, you must be really pressed, but you're doing a wonderful job, and I sure appreciate it. Meet that person that looks down, shoulders off with, good morning, Charles. How are you today? Gosh, you look good. Do your best with every human being you run into to lift their spirit, to make them feel like life is wonderful, living is fantastic, and keep your diary. Here's my challenge to you. If you do that and you're not healthier, happier, 30 days from now, send me a bill. Marie, within 60 days, she was off all pharmacology under supervision. Within a year, she was no longer clinically depressed, totally wonderful young woman, wonderful person, went out of her way every day. Depression was gone. Why? Because the focus wasn't on I, me, and all the miserable things that happen in life. I'm going to illustrate this with a story. This is a little colorful, so I'm going to try and tame it. I told you I have an associate in South Africa. He's in law enforcement. He wants to see, interrogation methods improved. He's forward-thinking. Great. I'm all for it. We create the program. He does some lecturing. He's a lie detection examiner. You guys would guess that. And an investigator. And he has a metaphor. And he shares this with law enforcement officials. But the metaphor goes far beyond law enforcement. Law enforcement, you can tend to get really cynical. I saw a movie. It was a series, Hill Street Blues, I think it was called. Maybe some of you have seen it. But it was a law enforcement series. And one day, these two detectives that are teamed up, they come on to an accident, and there are accident-specific officers answering it, and they load the victim of the accident into the ambulance and say, find his hand, it's been cut off in the accident. So 2 law enforcement officers are looking for this hand, and one of them walks over to this garbage can in the streets of New York and reaches in and picks it up by the finger. Holds it up like that, and here's the hand and the wrist and about this much of the arm. Turns it around, and there's the wristwatch. He says, takes a licking, keeps on ticking. Yeah. Well, this whole story was about how insensitive that was. The whole crowd heard it. They complained. That was totally insensitive. What kind of police officers do we have? The fact of the matter is, if you don't have a little sense of humor, you're going to go crazy in that business. What was it? It was just a healthy self-defense, a little sense of humor. That's what it was. So Malcolm spends time with law enforcement, trying to help them deal with their issues. And this story is about what he calls SH blank T cookies. Those of you that are any good with English have figured that out. We're just going to call it fortune cookies. You have fortune cookies that have positive messages. And there are folks that like fortune cookies that have negative messages. So we're going to call these collectors of our cookies fortune cookie collectors, but they don't collect the good ones. They only want the bad ones, okay? Now what they've learned to do is to collect all these fortune cookies. And then at the end of the day, they can go to the lounge and they can sit down with their colleagues. You know what happened to me today? The boss did this. Can you believe? Oh, yeah, I believe that. Do you know what happened to me? Oh, they get to share their fortune cookies. Now, this becomes important. It's a part of their social style. They look for these cookies, I'm sure. Like Malcolm says, they ride the escalator of life. Whoops, that one's mine. I got it. Wait till I tell everybody today. And the whole thing is about what happened to me is worse than what happened to you. So we share our negative fortune cookies. Now you see somebody that collects the positive fortune cookies. Life's great. It's wonderful. I love living. And they intrude upon the negative fortune cookie guys. Hi, how you doing? You guys look really great today. Oh, that's a bad scenario. What do you mean look great? You know what happened to me today. I'm going to tell you. You know what my husband did to me? We all know people like that, don't we? Their focus is on everything negative in life. And we're surrounded by that. Marie learned to throw away those negative fortune cookies. She learned, if I believe that everything in life sucks, I'll have a self-fulfilling prophecy. It will suck. Most importantly, what she learned is when she put her head on the pillow at night, she had a warm, fuzzy feeling. The same warm, fuzzy feeling that I got every morning when I turned on to Russell and waved at that little man as he sat next to his moped in front of his trailer house. A warm, fuzzy feeling.